Oh, we're live. You know, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but Morgan is back there. She hasn't been here in a while, and you guys didn't notice her new foot. Yeah, she got her new foot transplant. It's an inside joke if you guys didn't see my post on Facebook. Bless her heart. We might have to lay hands on that youngin'. She's a comedian and don't even try. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, again, just really, really glad for this whole week. I went back and got my old Bible out so I could find this stuff just a little quicker, because I really just want our thoughts and our minds on Jesus. Always on Jesus. So I want to go back over this week just a little bit. Jesus is tempted. I want to go to Matthew 26. I've got a lot of verses here. I just want to kind of read real quick and just have our minds reflect and think on these things. Matthew 26, verse 36. Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, Sit ye here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me. And then in Luke's Gospel 22, verse 43 and 44, and there appeared an angel from heaven strengthening him. I was always told that angel came to beat him, to make him pray more, but Morgan, you can turn that TV on. Just turn it on. The angel appeared strengthening him, not beating him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. And his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling to the ground. A guy told me the other day that in order to pray good, God will come and beat you to make you pray better. You always pray your best prayers after a good beating. I'm glad that God is not the one that I know. But Jesus is tempted and exceedingly sorrowful unto death. And, I don't know about you guys, but, let's just reflect a little bit on this moment that even Jesus, when you think in your desperation, and you know what happened is even his friends went to sleep. He was all alone. And I can tell you what, guys, there's nothing in this world, I guess, worse than being all alone. You can be in a crowd and be all alone. And Jesus is facing death, and he's exceeding sorrowful. And I can tell you guys, and I know when we face that, the loss of a loved one, loss of a parent, loss of a child, whatever it is, we're exceeding sorrowful unto death. Jesus has been there. Thank God that he's been there. He doesn't look and say, oh, get over it, get up, rejoice. He's been there. Jesus is betrayed. It says in Matthew 16 and 21, and from that time forth began Jesus to show unto his disciples how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and the chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. You know, they didn't get it. They didn't get it. In John's Gospel, John chapter 13 and verse 27, and after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, that thou doest, do quickly. I want us to keep in mind, guys, that Judas was his friend. He had just washed Judas's feet. Can you imagine the heartbreak here? Your best friend, you just washed his feet, and you know this. I mean, Jeff asked me the other day, I wonder why it says that it would be better if this man was never born. And I said, well, think about what the name means. That the very name. How many kids do you know named Judas? What is the first thing anybody in the world thinks of when you think of the name Judas? See, that's why. I mean, Peter betrayed him too. And so did John, and so did the rest of them. They all left him. They all left him alone. But Judas went out and hung himself. And therefore his name is forever attached with this betrayer. And it was Jesus' friend. Son of God, Son of Man, betrayed by his friends, betrayed by his own creation. You do realize that he is the creator, and his own creation has betrayed him. John's Gospel 19, Jesus is condemned. I'm just kind of jumping all over the place here. John 19 and 14. And it was the preparation of the Passover. And about the 6th hour, and he saith unto the Jews, behold your king. Look, here's your king. But they cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, shall I crucify your king? What do you want me to do? I've got your king. Do you want me to crucify your king? And the chief priest, the head of all religious organizations in the world, the most religious people in town, says, we have no king but Caesar. You know, that's a whole lot today. Because I can tell you what, guys, and you remember Sunday we went through these political terms. They shouted, Hosanna, the King is coming. All of these statements, Jesus comes riding in on a donkey. They come riding in on a war horse. Political slogans, all hail Caesar, Caesar's Lord, Caesar's Savior. Hosanna, Jesus, save us. These are all political statements because I'm telling you what, in our world today, you see, guys, we live in and under the kingdom of God. And there's only room for one king in there. There's not room for Caesar. There's not room for government of the world and the government of God. One swallows up the other. And it will. It will. Of the ongoing marching of this kingdom, it'll never stop. It will consume all. I'm going to go back to stay in chapter 19, go back to verse 9. Or start in verse 8. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was more afraid. This is because they said Jesus has made himself the Son of God, and Pilate was afraid. And went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Jesus, Whence art thou? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest not that I have the power to crucify thee and have the power to release thee? You're not going to answer me, buddy? Now remember, Pilate is doing this from a place of fear. You ever wonder why the leaders are so afraid? You see, church people, guys, we act like little wimps, and that's okay. But I'm telling you what, word has made it. Out there into the world, word has made it. We know what your God has done. We know how He brought you up out of Egypt on eagle's wings, how He parted the Red Sea, how He delivered you out of the mess we've heard of you, and we're afraid of your God. We don't want your God in our schools because we know what will happen. We don't want your God in our courthouses because we know what will happen. We don't want your God in our committee meetings because we know what will happen. We've heard, Pilate had heard, and Pilate thinks he has all this power. But he stands there trembling before Jesus. Aren't you going to answer me? But what has Jesus done? He's come in peace. And as a lamb, He opened not His mouth to the slaughter. John chapter 18, verses 22 and 23. Jesus is mocked. And when He had thus spoken, one of the officers which stood by struck Jesus with the palm of his hand, saying, Answerest thou the high priest so? Slaps him. Jesus answered, If I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil, but if well or truth, why do you smite me? Jesus is saying, if I've spoken the truth, why are you punching me in the face? You ever just wonder what brings on these forms of brutality and mockery? Bullying. The Son of God is brutalized by men. But here's one thing that I know. God stands with the outcast. God stands with those that are victimized. God stands with those that are being bullied. I promise you He does. We look around in this world and we see the outcast and we think, oh, they're not like us, they're different. I promise you, God stands with them. Why? Because He was an outcast. Any good thing come from Nazareth? Jesus is given His cross. He says in John chapter 3, verses 14 and 15, As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have eternal life. And then back over in John chapter 19, because I want you to understand this cross, as Paul says, this thing wasn't done in a corner. It was a public execution. It was done in the public. You've seen them old stories or seen them old things of the Wild West where they bring the criminals out and they got the gallows and they hang them and everybody gathers around. It's a public, this cross is a public instrument of murder, and it's reserved not for good people, guys. It's reserved for criminals. The worst of the worst. I'll go back to John chapter 19. Right after they said, verse 16, right after they said, we have no king. Then delivered he him, therefore, unto them to be crucified. And they took Jesus and led him away. And bearing his cross, he went forth into a place called the place of the skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha. Jesus took his place with the condemned, didn't he? I mean, we would think, and I know many times in churches we think, wow, he doesn't do that. You know, he's got to stay arm length from the criminals. He's got to stay arm length from those people who we deem less than us or not worthy enough, or maybe they didn't pray enough or dress like us or sing the songs that we sang. But Jesus identified with the low of the low, the outcast, the bullied, the marginalized, the victimized, and he took his place with them. It would do us well to take our place with them, because if you want to find where Jesus is, that's where he's at. We think, oh, he dwells in the churches, and everybody's saying, God was there. Did I can tell you where God is. You want to really know where he is really moving and working. And you think you're going to think, oh, I'm crazy. He is working with the brokenhearted. He's working with the criminals. He's in the jails. He's in the hospitals. He's with the drug addicts and all of them, and he's got his arms wrapped around them, and he's bringing resurrection life to them and healing them and bringing them and making them whole because he's been there. We think, oh no, keep them over there, draw a line, separate it, lock them up. Jesus didn't come to lock them up, did he? Did he not come to set, boy, you guys know it, the captives free? When we realize maybe one day, and I pray that God open our minds to realize, hey, we've been the captives. We all have. Jesus has taken his place with the condemned. Next, Jesus falls. He even proclaims this. He says, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it brings forth much fruit. He falls. Can you imagine that? Falls. And I'm going to read verse 25 here in chapter 19. And now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. Just ponder that a minute. You know, if I had to be humiliated, the last people I'd want to be humiliated in front of would be my parents, wouldn't you? Jesus is a grown man. He's 33 and a half years old. He's hanging there on the cross with his mother and his aunt. There was no place to hide from this humiliation. No place to hide. Maybe you've been embarrassed in public before. I want you to understand a little bit of the humiliation, the embarrassment that Jesus went through. Very public death. Very public. Then in Luke we see that Simon carries the cross in Luke chapter 23 and verse 26. And as they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus. Remember, Jesus said, if any man come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. I don't know if you imagine this or not, but imagine being pulled out of the crowd and having this device of death being placed on you. What it would be like to walk alongside Jesus in this moment. And whether we realize it or not, guys, you and I have been called out of the crowd to bear his cross and walk alongside of Jesus. You see, guys, I know this doesn't sound all great and enthusiastic, but if we could understand just a moment of this, I'll read you this verse over here that Paul writes in Philippians, that I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering, being made conformable unto his death. I mean, think of the message the church has to offer. Come and join us in following Jesus and take up your cross. This is why Jesus would tell Zacchaeus, if you remember the other day, Zacchaeus, do you realize the cost? Because everybody thinks when I come to church, guess what? No more trouble. It's lollipops and little puppies and little kittens and rainbows every day. And you know what? There'll never be another tear shed. And man, I went to church and we hit the lottery. Everything is great. But I hear them saying, think it not a strange thing for this fiery trial, which is to try you. What do you mean? What a privilege it is to come, that God has chosen crosses for us to bear. And I want to tell you what, guys, each one of us, and this is one of the problems that we face, is we don't want to bear that cross. The cross maybe that he's given you. Maybe the cross, maybe you're bearing the cross for somebody in your family. And bearing a cross is not an easy thing. And it's a long journey, isn't it? You know, we might pick it up for just a little while, but we want to throw it down. We want to rest a little bit. And I hear Jesus telling us, take my yoke upon you. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. Learn of me. So there is a yoke to bear, and I can promise you, you're wearing one. You either wear the yoke of the world, which has nothing but trouble. But if you bear this other yoke, there is promise and hope of resurrection. We don't sorrow as others who have no hope. Staying in Luke chapter 23, verse 27. Jesus is stripped naked. And there followed him a great company of people, of women, which also bewailed and lamented him. But Jesus, turning unto them, daughters of Jerusalem, weep not for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming in which they shall say, blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bare, and the paps which never gave suck. Then shall they begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. For if they have done these things in a green tree, man, oh man, what are they going to do in a dry? You ever think of that? I mean, we have these sayings, don't they? Man, they crucified that guy. Jesus was innocent. And there also were two other malefactors, criminals, led with him to be put to death. And when they were come to the place which is called Calvary, there they crucified him and the malefactors, one on the right and the one on the left. And then Jesus, hanging on the cross, says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And as he say that, hanging naked on the cross, they're gambling for his coats and clothes at the bottom of the cross. you ever feel the shame of your own failures and weaknesses, the shame? I look at my life and I feel this shame quite often. Shortcomings. Jesus was there. Jesus is nailed to the cross in John chapter 8. Verse 28. Then said Jesus unto them, when ye have lifted up the Son of Man, then shall ye know that I am He, and that I do nothing of myself, but as my Father hath taught me, I speak these things. When you have lifted up the Son of Man. And in John chapter 12, Jesus says this, now in verse 31, now is the judgment of this world, now shall the prince of this world be cast out. Everybody's worried about judgment. What's that verse say? I mean, it's right there for us to look. Now is the judgment of this world. Now, what is the judgment of this world? The prince of this world is cast out. His power is taken from him. It's stripped from him. See, judgment wasn't about coming in punishment. Judgment was coming to bring restoration. There had to be a judgment that came in so that relationship could be restored. Jesus wasn't concerned about punishing wrongdoers. He was concerned about reconciliation, about redemption. Next verse. And if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all unto me. I know the men is there, but will draw all unto me. All unto me, if I be lifted up. And in case you're wondering, we come into the churches and we think, hey, guess what? We're going to lift up Jesus with our praises today. We're going to lift Him up. Go to the next verse. This He said, signifying what death He should die. And I always say this, therefore God hath highly exalted Him. If you think you're lifting up Jesus, you're sadly mistaken, because God therefore hath highly exalted Him. We may lift our voices and join Him, but I assure you, He is already lifted up. Far above all principalities, far above all heavens. But here He is, nailed to this cross. In Mark chapter 15, let me go to Mark's Gospel chapter 15, verse 33. And when the 6th hour was come, there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour. And at the 9th hour, Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is being interpreted, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And I don't know about you, but for Jesus and all of us, those moments of pain, they go on so long. Probably every woman in here that's given birth can probably tell how many hours or days they were in labor. Just boom. Us guys, we don't know anything about that, thank God. But you talk to a woman, when I gave birth, I was in labor 28 hours. And it just goes on so long, doesn't it? You think that 28 hours or 15 hours is never going to end. Sometimes in our life we're in circumstances and the pain is so much and we wonder, is this ever going to end? You know, I see this. You know, your mother's sick. My mother passed away, and you know, you go and you begin this journey. They're in the hospital, and you wonder: is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be 6 weeks? Is it going to be 3 months? How long? And this whole time is filled with nothing but pain, isn't it? There's hope, but there's pain, and you're just filled with pain. David witnessed this. Absalom, my son. Oh, Absalom, my son. How Jesus stayed in that moment of pain, numbered with those who cannot change their situations. You know, guys, once the woman starts this labor and this pain comes, you can't stop it, can you? Baby's coming. That's it. You're in it. 12 hours, 20 hours a day, there you are. When we know that we're dealing with our loved ones and we know where the outcome is, we know what the end's going to be, William. We know this is it. The outcome is not changing, and Jesus stays in the moment. He has joined us in that moment of our pain and His pain. These are wonderful things, guys. Oh, so much has taken place. Then He dies. John 15:3, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Go back to Luke 23, verse 46. In His last moment, when Jesus had cried with a loud voice, He said, Father, into Thy hands I commit my spirit. And having said thus, He gave up the ghost. Jesus died. You know what, guys? I'm going to tell you what all of our greatest fear is. Our greatest fear has always been death. And I want to tell you something. Jesus dreaded it too. Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass. But I want you to understand that the Son of God, the Son of Man, the Creator of it all, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory. The man who spoke to the waves and the sea and the wind, and it was still. The man who walked on the water and multiplied the loaves and the fishes. The man who fed the 5,000. The man who healed the blind, who raised Jairus' daughter, who healed the Roman centurion servants, who cast out demons, is dead. He died. Jesus felt that same fear. And while He was there, really His physical body quit working. They watched Him pass. I have been there. And you know, I don't know what you call it. Joy, privilege, wonder, awe. I held my mom's hand. She breathed her last breath. Stood by Tracy as we watched her dad breathe his last. Stood by her as her mama breathed her last. I'm sure many of you have held loved ones' hands. Jesus died. And then Jesus is buried. You know, the woman, I spoke about this, she brings the alabaster box, and when she poured this perfume on Him, the Scripture says she did this to prepare my body for burial. And His friends, they come and bury Him. Who have we buried? They buried the one they believed would change the world. They buried the one they believed would bring justice. They buried the one, Kathy, they believed would bring healing. The one that would set things right. They've got him in their hands and they bury him. I know you're thinking, man, I thought this was going to be a resurrection sermon. I want to do something here for a minute. In John chapter 20, verse 11. But Mary stood without at the sepulchre weeping. I just want to read that verse, that little part. You see, guys, resurrection began with weeping. I wanted to bring our minds back around here. I mean, we know, we're looking back. We know the story. We want to jump up and down and say, hey, but I want you to understand, resurrection begins with weeping. Mary stood without at the sepulchre, weeping. Now, I told you guys I wanted to do something a little different than we've done before. As we get ready to close out this service, I told you I wouldn't be long today. I want to go and sing a couple of parts of a couple of old hymns that I knew and grew up with. And then read a couple of more verses, and then we're going to sing a song as we close out our service today. Morgan, if you could put that first song up on the board. You guys won't know this song. Maybe you will. But them old timers in the back are going to help me sing. Old timers. It's called Hark the Voice of Love and Mercy. Sounds aloud from Calvary. Now, I got to say this, guys, and here is one of my things, and I would like to see this remedied. For so long in the churches, I always feel like we come to entertain, and I hate that. This is one thing I loved about where I grew up. Everybody sang. Do you ever go to church where everybody sang? Everybody participated in the songs. Now you go to church and you get a few people up front sings and everybody else is entertained. I hate that, guys. I'll be honest with you. I hate it. Now, I know a lot of times we don't have the words on the board, but I promise you, Jeff and Neil and all of us, we're not here to entertain. We always want people to sing with us. And I know your first thing is, well, and I know how church people sing. They sing so low that nobody else is going to hear them. Right? You know why? Because everybody says, well, I can't sing. Everybody gives that I can't sing. Well, you know what? We can't sing either. But we just throw it out there. If it sounds good, good. If it don't sound any good, that's okay too. This is just a lifting our voices. This is just a singing. You know what, guys? Sometimes there's songs that you sing that make your heart fill with joy. Sometimes there's songs that you sing that bring tears. Sometimes there's songs that you sing that bring up old memories and make you laugh or make you cry. They have this power. So this is not a church of entertainment. We used to line these songs. I can't line these songs, and I'll probably mess it up. But we're going to do 2 verses of one song and a verse and a half of another song as we close our service. But I am going to ask, and I know this is a little bit of a lot here, but I'm going to ask you guys all to stand with me. If you guys will stand with me. I think it's noteworthy and worth it just to stand as we sing. These two songs are kind of mournful songs because I said it begins with weeping. Mary stood and wept, and that's okay. Let me get a drink and we'll try to start this song. It would be good if you guys sang with us. Hark the voice of love and mercy sounds a loud from Calvary. See, it rends the rocks asunder, shakes the earth and veils the sky. It is finished. It is finished. Saints, the dying words record. It is finished. Oh, what pleasure do these precious words afford. Heavenly pleasures without measure. It is, I'm sorry, I messed up. Stay, Lord. It is finished. It is finished. Saints, the dying words record. I want to do just a verse and a half of this next song. Thank God your Savior born. In the gloomy garden, sweating blood from every pore, to procure thy pardon. View him hanging on the tree, bleeding and groaning, dying, sitting crying. Joseph took his body down, wrapped it in linen, laid it in the silent tomb, and returned to morning. Please stay standing. Mary stood at the sepulchre weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down. She looked into the grave, saw two angels, one at the head, one at the feet, but that wasn't what she was looking for. They said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? You ever wept? She saith, Because they've taken away my Lord, my Jesus. They've taken away my son, my mother, my father, my husband, my wife, my Jesus. And I don't know where they've laid him. And when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing and knew not that it was Jesus. I'm going to tell you what, guys. He's there, and He's with us, and He's standing in the midst, and we know it not, and we don't see it not. We haven't spent enough time maybe weeping and understanding that where He is, that He's joined us, that He's risen, and He's here in the midst of your tears to wipe them. He said, there'd be no more tears. I'm standing there in the midst, and we're looking, and everybody's looking and looking for eclipses and blood moons and all of these things, and where is Jesus standing there, and we know it not. And Jesus says to her, and He says to us as we dry these tears from me, from my face, Woman, little Jim, why are you weeping? Kathy, why are you weeping? Dot, why are you weeping? Teddy, why are you weeping? I mean, it looks like it's a mess and everything is gone and all hope is gone and it's a wreck and I don't even know where Jesus is. I don't know if He's coming back. I don't know when He's coming back. It's a wreck and I'm all alone and the disciples have run off and I'm just here and I've got this ointment and I can't even find His body and I see angels. Who cares? Where is Jesus? The whole world is looking and longing. Where is Jesus? And I want to say, my God, He's standing in the midst. She, supposing Him to be the gardener, saith unto Him, Sir, if thou hast borne Him hence, tell me where thou hast laid Him, and I will take Him away. Just tell me where He is. Some people want to say He's up, He's there, He's over there. You remember He says, don't go. Don't go to any of that. Jesus says one word, Mary. Have you heard Him speak your name? Have you heard Him speak your name in the midst of all of this? I mean, I've heard him speak my name, Little Jim. That's all he has to say. I know who he is. My God, he's the gardener. He's the Lord Jesus. Can you not see him? Can you not hear his voice? My God, I've stood in the midst of death and cried, why? Why? And here he is, risen, this mighty King. Behold, John, I am he that was dead and am alive forevermore. And I have the keys of hell and of death. Write these things down. Come on, Jeff. Denise. Write these things down. When the Son of Man be lifted up, then you'll know. When the Son of Man be lifted up, then you'll know. You guys know this song, sing it with us. If we can get through it.
Out of the ground, there ain't no grave gonna
Shame is a prison, cruel as a grave. Shame is a robber who's come to take my place. Oh, love is my redeemer, lifting me from the ground. Love is the power when the freedom song is found. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna rise up out of the ground. There ain't no grave gonna hold this body down. One more on the chorus, everybody sing. Maybe you can clap or something. Yeah. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I rise up out of this ground. There ain't no grave gonna hold my body down. Guys, while everybody's standing, Tracy, if you'll come, the table has been set. Let's come and enjoy the communion of the Lord. He is risen. He is risen. Morgan, you can go ahead and cut it off now. I wanted it left going, so that was good.